There's one, there's two, and finally, the trifecta emerges. Welcome, Clark Kent. Intern. Yes, another beautiful episode. I got the stuff, James. I got it. I'm going to look over it now that my presentation is done. We'll get into that here in a second, and I will 100% look into that. Welcome everybody to another Thursday episode of this Uncanny Earth, the show that takes you all around the earth of uncanniness, including the maps above me because I have a lot of maps up there. So, welcome.
That's not a real place.
It is. It's Shambhala. So, yes, we are here tonight. We're talking about ancient civilizations. But first and foremost, let's get some stuff out of the way. Tuesday, I was in Youngstown for a presentation. As many of you know, I was not here last week, and Spider made a lot of very uncouth references to that. So I'm here to 100% defend my name, as I should.
Slacking.
But anybody that knows me knows that anytime I have a presentation, it has to be dead on, because you can't have nobody you can't have any hecklers like old Spider here. See, I gotta be ready for people like him, because he would heckle. He'd be like, "Well, that's not true." The
But
best
who started
audience."
streaming Final Fantasy first?
We all know the answer to that.
I mean, to be fair, it was me. No, I'm not saying the collection. I'm saying overall, it was me, because I streamed the after years a very long time ago. So, but
well, yeah, that's probably true, because
this collection, it was him for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie about it. You can, I mean,
it's always good to get the credit I deserve.
Yeah,
for nothing.
Oh,
for having that first comment on somebody's post somewhere in 1997.
Evan, it's a long time ago. Yeah,
it was a really good post. I think
it went very well. Got to talk to a lot of people afterwards. Everybody just kind of hung out and was asking me questions about secret societies. And I talked about a lot of them that nobody really knows about, because everyone knows about Freemasons and Skull and Bones and the Illuminati. But a lot of people don't know about the White Lotus, the Ganyosha, the Black Hand, things of that nature. So
I thought the Black Hand was fake.
No. The Black Hand was instrumental in kickstarting World War I with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Oh, wow.
Young Apis. Yes.
Thank you, Lighthouse.
Yeah,
I told Rob.
I told Zena that you two are the perfect married couple, because they get on my stream and fight like a married couple. It's very adorable, actually. So you should maybe move out to I was about to say Hungary, to Hungary and check that out. But yeah, 100%. So it went very well. People asked questions. It was a great time. I definitely recommend heading out tonight. I actually got to be a guest on Randy Stewart's WK12 TV show about giants. But it didn't just talk about giants. We talked about a plethora of things, from giants to UFOs to a little bit of Bigfoot, ancient civilizations, the government. So good stuff. And yeah, everything's been
He's been good to us.
Everything's been going a little bit better since the loss of my cat Hobo on Monday. These things happen.
Gotta find distractions.
You have
a good boy.
He was a great boy, best boy, really.
Boy. Yep,
best boy.
Black cats are some of the best.
Black cats are the best. Yeah, agreed. I've had two. He's my second. But you know that going into it, that you're gonna have a lot of good days with them, but there's always the one bad day. But you go into it and you love them anyways, and when it's that time, it's that time. And I want to give a special shout out. I agree with you, Lighthouse. He will be there in the next life. Always believe that. I want to give a special shout out to my son. He wanted to go. He wanted to go and be there with him in his final moments. And that says a lot to my child's character. And so I give him a lot of credit for that. Him being so young at 9 years old, because he told me, he said, he was there for me. I want to be there for him. And that speaks volumes to his character. So, yeah, it sucks. Definitely he's missed. Went from having 5 now to 1. So now there is only 1 left. And that sucks. So anyways, give your fur babies a lot of loving tonight, because time goes by fast, and I've noticed that as we get older, it seems to go by just a little bit faster every year. Other than that, though, I'm going to keep pressing on. We've got the holidays coming up, of course, unless Spider goes somewhere. You going anywhere for Thanksgiving this year?
Yeah, I will be. I'm not going to mention it on the air because I'm trying to keep stuff private these days because there's so much stuff that I put out into the YouTube about whereabouts and stuff, and I don't want to talk about where my family lives and stuff. But yeah, we're going to be going to Thanksgiving.
Him.
Well, people will do stuff.
I know what he's saying.
And
that was
I'm
a
just trying
to your Twitch earlier.
Ah, yes, thank you. Yeah, I've been playing Stalker, so that makes sense.
But yeah, we are going to be doing that later in the month here. So
you won't be available for that Thursday night show, right? That's fine.
Is it on Thursday? If it's on Thursday, then no, probably not. Well, I don't know. I'll probably be home before the show would be able to start, but I don't know if I'd be like around once I got home, if that makes any sense. But
we'll go ahead.
See.
Well, listen, we'll go ahead and we'll just schedule the show for the week after, so everybody can have time off with their family, because everybody's going to be in a tryptophan coma anyways. Ain't nobody going to really feel. They're just going to sit there. This will be us the entire show. So I remember one year we actually had Mike. We had Mike over because I was, this was when we were all working at Sears, and I had Mike over because he had to go into work. We all had to be there like super stupid early. Very, very fun times. So very fun times. Oh, okay. All right. What's up, Scruffy? What's up, Raspy? What's up, Lighthouse? What's up, Mammoth? No more turkey. I can't wait. I like to make turkey sandwiches and all sorts of turkey-esque things. Very big fan. And thank you, James. Thank you, Lighthouse. Thank you to everybody for your kind words. It's always appreciated. So anyways, what's going on with you two gentlemen? What do you have going on?
Well, this weekend I will be looking into a new subject for my show. I'm thinking maybe samurai would be an interesting topic this week.
In case anybody doesn't know, his show's been racking up some good numbers, so you're missing out if you're not watching it.
He's definitely, as soon as he hits it, he's leaving us in the dust.
See, it's going to go the other way around. We're going to start riding his coattails.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
he's gonna change both of our names to the intern.
This is the development show. This is like the Cleveland Browns. You just develop here, then you go on to better teams.
This is the territories.
Cleveland Brown, and
this
I'm
is the territories.
Yep.
Okay,
actually, for anybody that's watching the game, they are up 10-6.
Thank you, Lighthouse.
Steelers.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, because it's on free on Prime. So
I usually expect a choke at some point, usually in the second half, but you never know.
Well, here's the fun part about all that. It's snowing in Cleveland, so you know how that is.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It snowed today here, actually.
Yeah.
No, today.
Yeah. No. Yeah, those of us who are in the Ohio Midwest area here, we got snow today, and it snowed all day long. It didn't just like spit a little bit and then go away.
No, it did.
Stayed as a layer the whole day, which is pretty surprising. Usually the first snow is here and then gone, and then you forget about it for like 3 weeks when you get 70-degree weather out of nowhere in November. But I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think we're going to stay cold.
I'm so
and
conflicted.
Hello to Apple. Welcome. So go ahead, Steven.
Oh, it's not important, but I was just thinking I'm conflicted about snow because I like snow. I like to be in it. I like to see it, but I don't like it when I lose work hours.
We don't like to drive in it, but we do anyways.
Yeah.
I took the Browns to the Super Bowl this morning. Mammoth was playing some Madden, apparently. Or he went to the bathroom.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
a family show. May I
You're right.
remind
My
you?
bad. My bad. Oh,
Remind the
Everybody
people in the
poops. May I
comments
remind
there.
you?
Oops, we got a badass
Hey,
here.
you can still keep that to yourself.
Hey,
That's your own
everybody
personal
Hey,
business.
hey. All right, let's get back on track, gentlemen.
Personal business.
This is a family education channel. All
You
right.
do the education
Yeah.
here. What are we
Do
doing?
education here. Hey, I'm educating here. Ancient civilizations, one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite things to talk about, actually. One of my favorites is good old Mesopotamia, where this cycle started. The cycle that we're in now basically started with Mesopotamia. I'm a person that very much believes that we all are in a cycle. Everything is cycle. It's cyclical in nature as it is.
Cyclical universe.
I think that we are just in this time period. I think there's been civilizations that have risen and fallen before us. Now, what I pose to you gentlemen today is this. If there were civilizations before, what do you think those civilizations would have been like? Because we have things like Nod, where Cain was said to go off to. That could have been a whole civilization of people. We have Atlantis, that supposedly existed before Egypt,
One of my favorites.
before Mesopotamia, one of our interns' favorites. We have Lemuria, we have Mu, both of which are kind of argumentative in the fact that they probably didn't exist, and if they did, they were under another name. And we also have some Asian civilizations that existed before. But the problem with those lies in the fact that a lot of Asian countries, albeit China and Japan, think they or thought they were the superior Asian group at one point and tried to usurp the other Asian countries, as we have seen with China in different places like Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and places like that.
Not to derail too far, but I have a question since you guys are the more into the Asian background of things than I am.
Right.
Didn't they do similar practices to something that happened in Egypt over a certain number of years, where if a new regime took over, they went out of their way to dismantle and completely erase everybody that was before them, unless it was somebody that was like that they respected?
Well, Japan's different. Japan didn't do that only because Japan's rulers, like their actual like emperor, was thought to descend from Amaterasu, which was the
God
basically
of
the
gods.
goddess of everything, the sun goddess, if you were, and then Susanoo was the moon god. So it was thought that they all descended from them. So you either showed allegiance or you died. There was no in between. Your allegiance was to the emperor. Now there was shogunates who then had, your feudal lords, and then your daimyos, which then had samurai, and everybody was to pay it. Because here the problem with Japan, and it still exists to this day because we see it, was Japan was an honor-driven society. I mean, we remember in the 80s and 90s when if kids got bad test scores, they jumped off buildings. That was just something they did because they didn't want to dishonor their family. They wanted to
You
dishonor their
still
mother
get
and father.
stories once in a while, not often as much, but
It's
you
not
still
as
get the
much as
stories
it's
of
not as prevalent.
the business people. If they get like a poor review or a demotion, then they still like try to jump off the office building and stuff. It's not as
I've
often
heard
as
they
it
even
used to
put
be.
nets
But
down there to protect people.
Well, they put they've basically cordoned off the roofs.
Hang
So
on
you
one
can't even try to jump off the roof. You are not going to
Mm.
get very far. The thing with China, though, was a different society. While it, yes, whoa, okay, seems like we've lost the intern for a brief moment. With China, it's a little bit different because the country's a lot larger.
Mm.
So trying to dismantle and destroy the regime before it is a little next to impossible because of how the landmass is. Egypt, it worked because there was a centralized spot, right? There
Mm.
was a lower and there was an upper Egypt, and there was times when one part ruled and there was times when another part ruled. And Egypt really only did that when Akhenaten was pharaoh, because he tried to dismantle everything before him,
Mm.
because as you're very familiar with, he thought that the sun was God. You know,
Yeah,
he
he
didn't
went to
believe in
monotheism.
he didn't believe in the polytheistic society of Egypt, and he just wanted to start tearing statues down and tearing things down. So the ones that came after Akhenaten tried to destroy his legacy because when he died, it went back to a polytheistic society. Isis, Osiris, Anubis, all that was brought back. That's where with Akhenaten, it was just the sun, and that was it. There was nothing above, below. It was just the sun.
Yeah, I
So
remember it being a brief time period in the
yeah,
overall history of the empire. Although a couple spots when they had problematic deities that were getting too powerful, quote unquote, for their own
yeah,
good, there were a few outliers that you can still find evidence of where they scrubbed the temples as best they could, like
yes,
cut off the images and destroyed
yeah,
the statues. But it wasn't as widespread as that time period. That time period was
right.
pretty dramatic.
Yeah, yeah. In the grand scheme of Egyptian history, Akhenaten was basically the one
Ooh.
that the other rulers didn't like, basically because it was all due to his change and everything. He basically radicalized a change, and they said, no, we're not going to be doing all of that. When you die, we're going to revert back. And then with Tutankhamun, for as long as he reigned, which wasn't very long, I think 13 years. He was only 13, I think, when he had passed. He passed very young, and then it moved on from there. And they all just kind of shifted back to that polytheistic society. Lighthouse says, I wonder why they didn't think the Nile was a god, as it was the Nile that gave Egypt its power and wealth. Well, the thing with the Nile was it could be seen, right? It was visible. It could be touched. It could be, drank from if they choose to. With their gods, they couldn't be touched. Some people will say that these were when I did my presentation, because I did and hello OCIR, when I did my presentation, I talked about the Egyptian mystery schools, and the purveyor or the leader of these mystery schools was Thoth. Thoth was like the guy, but they said Thoth was an extraterrestrial. So that's a whole nother thing. They did try to erase Akhenaten from history, but he found his way back. And he became more popular than ever because he was on an episode of Ancient Aliens where they thought that he was an alien because his face looked different. They thought he had like the body, he had the wide hips like a female. So they were very much, Ancient Aliens will tell you everything's an alien. They'll tell you that
Grasshopper
I'm
people, 6 feet tall.
aliens.
An interesting quick note also, considering that they didn't see the Nile as a god or a goddess, is because all of their gods and goddesses were still supposed to be separate beings. They were representatives of what they were attached to. Like Ra being the sun god didn't mean that he was the sun. They still believed
Right.
the sun was a separate thing.
Yeah.
The goddess, I believe it's Ma'at, who's the one that arches over.
Oh, Ma'at, the Maat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she arches over, and the stars are supposed to be part of her cloak, but she isn't the stars and she isn't the sky
Right.
herself. That's
Right.
just where she is representative of. So that's
Yes.
an interesting point that you bring up about why they didn't
Yeah.
venerate the Nile itself, because they didn't do that. They still had
Right.
separate, I guess you could say, flesh and blood of a sort that was supposed to be their gods that represented them as people rather than objects that were deified.
I think Ancient Aliens was good in the first couple seasons, just because they provided some very interesting concepts. But I think at the same point, it got to be so old when it gets to season 25 and 30, and they're basically rehashing the same things they've been saying. They think everything is aliens. They believe that the ancient astronaut theory is like without anything, like it's everything and that's it. I don't believe that, but obviously to each their own. I think another reason why we don't see the Nile as as being considered a god, like Spider said, yes, right here. Yep, that's what I was hoping you'd pull up, because the gods were representatives of things, much like the Greek and the Roman. gods were representatives of like a thing. Zeus is a lightning bolt.
Like
Lightning
American
bolt was,
gods, the god of technology and television.
yes, in a way, except these gods were more of the overarching everything, as to where the god of
Okay.
television isn't the god of everything.
Yeah.
The god of everything would be, like Ra, the sun god. He's the sun god, but he's not the sun.
Yeah.
Much like Amaterasu was the sun goddess, she wasn't the sun. She was just the best thing I can say
Power
is
plant.
like almost like a personification, maybe would be the right terminology here to use.
Because
Of
like the sun
said
and the
things.
moon
Yeah.
were forces. They didn't know exactly what. Well, supposedly they didn't know what they were. We know
Right.
from previously Mesopotamia that a lot of them knew what the planets were, so they probably
Yeah,
had
yeah.
a good idea. But from our perspective, if they didn't know, they saw the moon and the sun as forces that were not particularly humanized, but they
Yes.
had
Making-
human representatives.
Like
Right.
making decisions, maybe.
Like the planets were named after the Roman gods. They represented a planet. And that still exists with a lot of astrology today, where they represent a certain planet.
Mhm.
Like so and so is the house of this, that, and the third. I don't follow a lot of astrology, so I'd be the wrong one to ask on that concept. And I think when we talk about Egypt, we would fail if we didn't mention that a lot of the pyramids were very late when a lot of these pharaohs took power. A lot of them were already pretty much dismantled. A lot of the capstones had already been removed. A lot of the pyramids at their glory existed long before some of the most famous pharaohs were even walking the earth. There was like, I think one of them was like 2,000 years. So, you're seeing an ancient civilization that was even more ancient at one time. And I think if the library at Alexandria wouldn't have been destroyed, we would know so much. Well, I don't think everything in it was destroyed. I think a lot of that was taken to the Vatican, and a lot of that sits in the Vatican archives. I can't, obviously I'm not, I don't live at the Vatican archives, so I can't just go
Or do
downstairs.
you?
Or do I? This is it. You see those
That's a
books
closet.
behind
Like
me?
that's just a closet somewhere that looks absolutely normal, and that's why you can't tell.
Even though you've been to my house before and you know that I don't live at the Vatican. That's it. That's the archives.
That's just
right
what
there.
they want you to believe.
That's just there's some books. There's a couple Vatican archive books right there. There's the Bible, it's right there. And I think a lot of that stuff got taken to there. I think it got split up between the Christians, and the Jews and the Muslims at the time that it happened. Because there was three powerful forces vying for that library, and then it got destroyed. I am the new Pope. Thank you. Pope Uncanny.
No, that
unitary
smoke
pope.
just means your house is on fire.
That's the black smoke. That's because you're burning something you shouldn't. The gray smoke, all the smoke means a different thing. So that's pretty interesting. You bring that up. I would love to go to the Vatican, and we've talked about this on the show. Like you have to tell them exactly what you want, and you have to be from a credible source, and you're not allowed to hang out. They give you what you want. You can look at it and then get out. GTFO, get out. They don't want you hanging out there and looking around and poking around. And on one hand, I get it, because a lot of that stuff is very old. So a lot of it is very white glove-esque. Some of it probably would just fall apart if you touched it. So in that regard, I get that. But I'm going to go look around. I'm going to touch stuff. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right now. Let me do it. Come on. Let us get on there. No. But yeah, you got to know what you're looking for, and you're not allowed to poke around. So we would have to be like, I need, Canticle 155 of this hymn. And they'd be like, okay, here it is. No. You look at this and you get out.
We
And if
want
you
to
don't,
see
we'll-
the Codex Gigas.
And if you don't, we'll call the Swiss Guard in, and they will physically remove you from our premises. And you'll go to our court, and then go to our jail, and everything else. I would love to have been in the library, but I think it would be a monkey's paw type wish. You would wish to go back there, but you couldn't read anything, so you'd be stuck. You'd be
no.
like, "Oh, there's all this stuff, and I can't read it."
You would
but
forget it as soon as you left the library.
Or that would be the other one. That'd be the other thing. That'd be the other part of the
Yeah.
monkey's paw wish.
So you would
For
like
those
be
of you that
trapped
don't
there
know what a
forever.
monkey's paw wish is, you get your wish, but there's some sort of curse
Just desserts.
attached to it. So, like, yeah, I get $1
Ooh.
million that just came out of a bank, so now you want it for robbery type stuff.
There is the apostolic library.
Apostolic library. Yep.
But also the secret archive.
The apostolic archive. Yeah, he's right. He's right. The Vatican is a very fascinating place. I think it's just a continuation of the Roman Empire. I don't think the Roman Empire ever really fell. I think it just morphed into something new. That's another very interesting civilization because they basically built their structure off of the Greek way of
and their knowledge on
governing.
bathhouses was impeccable.
What'd you say?
Their knowledge on bathhouses was impeccable.
Yeah. Well, they were clean, amongst some other things that I can't say on the show because it's a family show and those things can't be said here. But for the most part, yes. Their waterways, their aqueducts were a scientific marvel. The Nabateans used a very similar system in their time too. Another ancient civilization.
Ooh,
with
that'd be a good one. We should.
We would. We could. That'd be something we'd have to.
Different.
Yeah.
It is 100% different.
It is different.
It is different. Yes, the Etruscans. I would love to do. We need to do the Cathars at some point too. That's one that we need to do because we don't really talk about a lot of them. We need to.
Cathar heresy.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Gnostics, the Essenes, and everything else. At some point, we're going to start breaking those down too because it's a fascinating time. I think also we need to kind of. I think a lot of times people just they leave out the barbaric tribes and their traditions and that like the old
Genghis
Celtic
Khan
tribes.
count as a barbaric tribe?
No, he's a Mongol. It's a little bit
Okay.
different. Your barbaric tribes would be Germany, France, those regions, like the Visigoths, the Goths, the Huns, the Vandals. There's a couple more in there.
So, like, how would you define a barbaric tribe?
Well, a barbarian, I think, was defined by Rome as somebody who didn't believe in Roman ideals.
Okay.
They just thought they were barbarians, like they were.
I thought they were uncultured and
That's what I mean.
unintelligent.
Yeah, that's what they
Okay.
referred to them as because they had ways that were unlike the Roman ways. The Romans
Yeah.
didn't think they were clean. They didn't think they were of noble stock. Like
They
we
were
know all
uncouth.
these, we know all these rules and laws, and all you do is drink the blood of animals and worship
Yeah.
skull gods. You know what I mean? Which some of that is true, but a lot of those tribes were very well knowledged. They whooped on Rome quite a few times when Rome tried to come in and remove them. They said, "Nah, you're not going to do that. We know our land better than you. We can hide in the forests. We can hide in the mountains. We will come and get you at night when you're sleeping."
Yeah, you don't
And
mess with Rome.
And there's nothing. No, they would beat Rome up. They would
Okay.
go
They
in.
eventually sacked
Yeah.
the city of was it Rome or was it Constantinople or both?
No, it was Rome. Well,
James,
Constantinople
Rob
got
is
it
in
from.
charge of the emails.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in charge of the emails, James. I got them. I'm going to look them over because now that my presentation's done with, I have a little bit more time to do that. But yes, Rome got sacked. Constantinople just got turned into Istanbul by the Muslims that came in the Ottoman Empire. Basically, turned that into Istanbul, and it never changed.
I knew that
back.
had come later. I didn't remember if maybe they'd been hit by the barbarian tribes previously also, but I know for sure Rome was hit directly.
Well,
wasn't that during Caligula?
Well, Attila the Hun actually was going to sack Rome, and if I'm not mistaken, the Pope met with him and asked him not to do it, and said, "Can you not?" And he was like, "Okay," and he went home. Because the Huns were a force. They were one of the
They didn't want to mess with
most
them.
opposing, but they were ruthless. Because they saw what Rome did, and they're like, okay, they treated Rome like we treated England.
And
West
like-
where England met on the battlefield, you cocked your pistol, you cocked your musket, you fired it, You stood in the line. We hid in trees and started
Mm.
popping them off out of trees. And England was like, "Hello, please don't shoot us no more at the trees. You're supposed to meet us on
Yeah,
the
the rules of
battlefield."
engagement.
And go
Guerrilla
ahead.
warfare. We were one
The
of the
other
first
thing-
guerrilla warfares.
The other thing about the Huns was, though, that when they came over the mountains, people remember, oh, yeah, he came over the mountains with the elephants. He was a strong force. But they forget the fact that he lost most of his force crossing over those mountains.
Yeah, those
Just because
mountains
he
were
did it
brutal.
doesn't mean that it was safe or that it was 100% successful. He got over it
Yeah.
and got within striking distance of Rome, but he didn't have a whole lot left by the time he got there.
And the people were afraid because he came over the mountains.
And I
They
wanted
looked
to
at it as like, oh my goodness, he came over the mountains. Oh, they didn't
With
think
the elephants, and then he
With the
lost most
elephants.
of his elephants.
Yeah.
which was taken from India. India's use of elephants, especially during Raj Porus and his fight against Alexander the Great, he was so impressed with Alexander the Great that he gave Alexander the Great a little bit of India. He said, "You can have this little bit. I'm impressed you made it this far," because Alexander the Great was so used to fighting Persia. He was, he had problems with Macedonia and Greece, but India was a whole different subcontinent. It was a whole different thing than a lot of people really understood. This was a jungle style environment that he was not used to. So his men are dying. They're getting attacked by all these different things. He's seeing elephants on the battlefield. You go into war and you see somebody riding an elephant,
You're gonna out.
And these are giant pachyderms. These are huge. These aren't like, an elephant you would see at a zoo. Those are big. These are bigger. These are huge animals, and they're leading them into battle.
Did they have armor?
Some of them did, yes. Not like giant horse armor like in Oblivion
Like
or,
in the
or
video
like,
games?
but like they had
It's
pieces.
not like
yeah.
Lord of the Rings with the big
Yeah.
siege
Right.
towers on the back of the elephants.
Right,
They weren't that
yeah,
big.
right.
It wasn't
Uh,
quite like that, but it
And
was still pretty
and
like when you're there on the
Yeah.
battlefield and you see an elephant charging at you, you're going to see it as if
Yeah.
it's something like that just
Yeah.
because it's so big that you've never fought
Yes.
it before.
Yeah.
And it's going to seem
It's
like
gonna feel
it's
like a
larger than life.
skyscraper
Yeah.
trying to beat you up.
And Alexander the Great, that's where, his forces got kind of jingle jangled, as I like to say, because they weren't used to that kind of tactic. They weren't used to fighting elephants. They beat Persia because Persia was Persia. Persia got comfortable.
Overconfident.
Alexander the Great went up against, I want to say, 500,000 Persians, and he only had like a quarter of that, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong here, chat, or anybody else. But he won the battle because he was he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest tactician the world had ever seen. This is a man that commanded an army,
They make
and it
books
grew
about
and
him.
grew and grew. And as soon as he got into, there were also reports of 3 flaming shields appearing in the sky when he invaded India. I've heard something similar. I heard that
there were a lot of weird stuff during his various campaigns.
When he would ride through, he would saw Brahmin priests floating. They would just be there floating, and they could talk to him subconsciously, or not subconsciously, but telepathically. They could talk to him, and they wouldn't move their mouths. India is a very, I don't want to say weird, but a very different place than the rest of the world. There's no other place in the world like India. There's doors that they say don't ever open these, because if you do, something bad will come out. It's a very old civilization. We have the War of the Gods that happened in the Mahabharata, and supposedly the Mahabharata had nuclear war, and that nuclear war raged on and hit parts. Rajasthan, for instance, as we've talked about, still has radioactivity there that has been there for a very long time. There's glass, parts of it that's turned to glass, much like parts of the Sahara that have turned to glass because of extreme heat in the sand. So it's a very interesting aspect when you're dealing with, because Alexander the Great's time is one of the most fascinating studies of warfare, in my opinion, in history. And you're right. It does have a very deep and rich culture. I think we get blindsided by a lot of the stereotypical aspects of India. So a lot of people don't, research it very much, but I've looked into it. The hardest part about India is trying to pronounce some of the things that have multiple consonants and next to no vowels. So you're like, oh, okay. It's a lot like Buddhism, where there's a lot of like Buddhist people that have names, and you're just like, where's the vowels? Does anybody have some vowels? Can I have
And
vowels?
not to get too deeply political, but their current government is not particularly too interested in a lot of their cultural stuff going on right now
At
either.
all.
And so there are a lot of problems stemming from what you see most of modern Indian culture you see in place from their current government, which is
Yeah.
responsible for a lot of the overpopulation. It's responsible for a lot of the fact that it only looks like it's all they do is answer phones over there. There's a lot of stereotypes that stem from the decisions of their current government,
Right.
and
They turned off the internet to a place,
an entire region
an
just
entire
to
region. Just
just to stop them from protesting something.
Oh, I heard about that.
yeah,
Yeah, it
Modi,
was a
Modi and his
couple years
people
ago.
turned the internet off. Yeah, they just said no, you're not going to tell anybody anything. Turned it off. And something that a lot of
There you
people
go.
don't know about is that India and Pakistan are always on the cusp of a nuclear war.
Yeah,
Always. Always. And that's how you got to look at it, Lighthouse. You got to look at the people,
yeah.
because the government's bad everywhere. You're never going to find a good government. It just doesn't. You find a government you can stomach. That's it. You never find a good one because there's no such thing. There's corruption. You're always going to have corruption, even with checks and balances in place. It's just something that's always going to happen. And like I said, that's why I looked into the history of it, because if you look at, a lot of people just look at like Mumbai and they see, the trash in the streets, they see the dirty water, they see, this, that, and the third, and that's it. That's all they see. And India is a subcontinent. It's massive. That'd be like me just looking at Beijing and not looking at anything outside of Beijing. Or here in the States, that'd be me looking at Washington, D.C. and not looking at anything outside of Washington, D.C.,
Or
you
San
know,
Francisco.
or San Francisco. Right, right.
That'd be a good example, because you look at San Francisco and you think, oh man, this whole country must just be filled with trash and homeless and
Yeah.
all these great old buildings that nobody cares about anymore. But you look outside and there's a lot of
Yeah.
great things in the rest of the state and the rest of the nation.
And like you said, the stereotypes about India are the hardest. They get hit pretty hard. And then there's funny memes that we've shared about it. And it's, that's the thing about it is you have to, I would love to go to India. It's not at the top of my list, by the way. It's not, it's top 10, but it's not top 1, 2, or 3. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole other day, because a lot of Zoroastrians actually went down into India after they were persecuted by Muslims, by a lot of the Islamic rule. They left and they went around and down into India. That's why a good chunk of the Zoroastrian population is in fact in India. I mean, most of it is in Iran because that's where, they were. But a lot of it is in India, oddly enough, but they were more accepting at the time. And there was more land, there's more land to have, because Islamic expansion was insane. Once the ball started rolling there, it didn't stop. It didn't stop well until the 1900s. Actually, the Ottoman Empire, I think, lasted into the, I want to say, mid 1900s. I want to say maybe a little bit before the mid 1900s.
Because they were still around for World War One, as
Yeah.
far as I'm aware. They were still kicking, still doing their thing.
They obviously weren't as powerful as they once were.
Yeah.
But they were still the Ottoman Empire, and then that all collapsed, and then that all broke apart, much like the Soviet Union. It broke apart too. It was pretty vast as well, and then it broke apart, like, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, all those Stan countries kind of broke off together. 1917, the Ottoman Empire fell. So yeah, that's you were about right. Yeah, so that was an empire that lasted quite some time. And they, a lot of people, once again, stereotype Islam into being one thing, like it's such a violent thing. But a lot of the earlier stuff was about collecting knowledge. They had 2 big houses, the House of Wisdom, which was in Baghdad, which was destroyed by the Mongols, you'll find the Mongols destroyed a lot of things. Like you looked at a Mongol wrong and he would just destroy something just
Yeah, they had no
because.
respect for anybody. They were just like, nope,
Anybody
we're
or anything.
rolling on through. There's nothing you can do to stop us,
Yeah.
and have a good day. See you
Yeah.
never.
100. Have a nice weekend. Hope your house burns down because it probably will burn down. We're gonna burn it
And
down.
that's it. Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Have a
And
good
once
day. See you never.
and the Mongols conquered pretty much all of the known world at the time. A lot of people are actually descended from Mongols because the Mongols did two things: they fought and they fornicated, and those were the two things that they loved to do.
I don't remember the percentage, but there's a pretty hefty percentage of people, and I saw this from an Amazon show about cars, believe it or not, that a good portion of the people in the
Disney
world
movie.
can trace their ancestry.
Yes.
No, not that movie. But can trace their ancestry directly to Genghis Khan.
Yes.
Because he got around a lot with everyone, whether they wanted him to or not. He was not particularly invited most of the time. He did what he wanted. So
he crashed the party.
That's a legacy.
Much. Yeah. And the Mongols would show up. They showed up and destroyed the House of Wisdom. They said that the river was red and black from both the blood that they shed and the ink from everything they just threw in the river. Some of it survived. The House of Knowledge would still exists, and that was part of the Fatima Caliphate in Egypt. It's still there, I believe. The building is still there. I still think they teach out of it. And a lot of, once again, Islam was, once anything fundamentalist kicks in, whether it be Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, once the fundamentalist aspect kicks into that, your concept and idea of trying to be more knowledgeable and be more understanding goes out the window. It tends to fly out the window at a very fast pace. I believe it's Lebanon. The magic is banned. Any form of having a magic book,
magic wands,
magic spells, things of that nature can land you the death penalty.
Magic toast?
Can land you the death penalty. Like you will 100%, they will execute you. There was even an article that talked about the government. They were trying to put spells on each other, and they got in serious trouble for that. But if you look back at the religion itself, there's a period of enlightenment, and I think that's with every religion, has a period of enlightenment, and then it turns to. It is most, but the one that I had watched the documentary on, they were talking about Lebanon because they were talking about Baalbek and the Temple of Baalbek, which I believe got shelled. I believe that it got bombed not too weeks ago, a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
So that's some sad news. But much like the Jews and their ancient religion, and you have the that area too. Another one, very, very ancient, but they moved around a lot more. They were very nomadic for quite a period of time. As discussed in the Bible, they moved around so much that they didn't stay in one place until well into later history, and then they would come back, and then they would get taken prisoner, and they'd get taken this way and taken that way, and then they'd come back, and it's very conflicted zones over there. It's always fighting. But a very ancient place. That's one of the reasons I think that we're over there as a military unit isn't for oil. It's for something that's over there that we either have found, haven't found, still looking for.
Making contracts to form a unified world government.
Maybe. I don't know if that's a world uniform government doesn't work until we go to space. Until we can actually extend our reach beyond this planet, it won't work.
Oh, me and James were talking about Project Bluebeam a few weeks ago.
Oh, where they beam the thing into the sky and everybody thinks it's the aliens coming?
Yeah.
It's funny you say this. but I think that's one of the things for me, uh, because everybody knows about it now. It's
Yeah.
been passed around so much. I always think that those things are put out there just so people can latch on to it, so that something else can happen while people are latched onto that idea or that concept.
Yeah.
I always tell people when anything major is going on, all right, when anything like let's say the Olympics or a Super Bowl or
They're trying to distract us
the
from
Tyson
something.
Paul fight, right? Always
Yeah.
go to
It's a distraction.
the Wall Street Journal and read some of the things in the back pages of the Wall Street Journal. And you'll find little things: what company acquired who, where are they drilling at, what country are they in, what's going on. And you'll find a lot of times, um, okay, uh, you'll find a lot of times that the concept of what they tell you and what they're doing are two different things. I think that when we have ancient civilizations and we start finding things, why are we always in the Middle East? I don't think it's for oil. We could go to Venezuela and get their oil, essentially. Because if you think about it, Venezuela is a mess as a government. I think they've maybe sort of corrected that path,
They're
but I think for the
stabilizing
most
right
part,
now. I don't think it's perfect. We're politically at odds with them still because, of course, we're part of the reason they collapsed to begin with.
right?
But they're more stable than they have been in a long time, from what I can tell. You don't hear a lot about them anymore.
No,
It's like the big disaster happened, people were really upset, and then oops, okay, and then moved on. But
yeah,
I believe from what I've seen, they're starting to be okay. But we have a lot of the people coming up from that region of the world are from Venezuela, so they're still hemorrhaging people
yeah,
who are migrating across South America up north.
yes, yes. And you would think that the United States want their proverbial foot in those countries, like Peru, like Brazil, because they have their own ancient civilizations as well. So that's, it always, because you don't hear about a lot unless that's an under wraps kind of thing. You don't hear a lot about skirmishes going on there. You don't hear a lot about us being down there unless, like I said, it's a covert black ops type thing. But you do hear a lot of us in the Middle East. You do hear a lot about us being in Iraq or being in Lebanon. Not so much Iran, because Iran wouldn't have it. But the people that we are allied with, Afghanistan for a while, and then we pulled out, and that was a mess. And that's the whole question behind it. The Dome of the Rock, I think, would lead us to a very interesting discovery if we could get to it. But it is so well guarded, well protected. I think people broke in a while back and tried to go underneath the catacombs or the tunnels that they have under there, and didn't come up with anything. But I think something's there. I think that that all these places have very, very significant ties to who we are. The Mesopotamian region as a whole, to be honest, would tell us a lot about who we are, where we come from, why we're here. But instead, it's just somebody's bombing here or there, and a lot of times, if we look at all the bombings that have taken place in the Middle East, a lot of it has been in historical places, and a lot of history has been destroyed. I remember
Books.
they were destroying the Buddha statues. They were just planting charges and blowing them to kingdom come. They were robbing the museums and destroying stuff, and that hurts my soul, because as a historian, we have to preserve that kind of stuff so we know where we came from. But maybe that's the point. If you erase that kind of stuff and you don't know where you come from, they can make up stories about where you come
Easier
from.
to manipulate people.
Of course, because if the and I was talking about this on Randy's show, and shouts out to Randy for having me on earlier. I said that if people found out the truth, a lot of people would go crazy. And there's enough people now that crazy wouldn't be good for society as a whole. We talked about things like should people get to should everybody
DNA
know
manipulation.
everything? Should everybody know everything? And I don't think so. I don't think there's some people that should not know everything because it's dangerous. Information can be a very dangerous thing. You know,
Part
look
of
at
The information for Oppenheimer. I was trying to think of how to word it safely without getting us in trouble.
yeah,
well, you can talk about nuclear things. That's
Yeah.
okay.
yes. The
Talk
KGB
about
will
that.
not come and get you.
That's not a scary word yet, but part of the thing is that I don't think necessarily it's all about keeping people from knowing what came before. Only I think it's a bit more simple than that. I think it's basically if you get rid of everything else that came before, then the only thing people know is how it is. And you can say that how it is how it's always been. So you might as well accept it because
Yeah.
this is the way it is. So it's easier
Yeah.
to get people to go along with the current status quo of wherever you're at by saying this is how it's always been. This has
Right.
always worked.
Yeah.
There was nothing else before us that worked. There's
Mhm.
nothing else that's going to be after us that worked. This is
Or
all
the-
there is.
Or they can create a previous narrative and say this is how it was.
Maybe.
And we've
Or
gotten
again,
better. We've gotten better now. See how it was before.
This is
now
why
look,
you
we're
need to
better.
obey us.
Yeah, because we led you out of this
Mhm.
and now you're here. Do you want to go back to that? Of course you don't want to go back to that. You want to keep going forward. Move forward. Moving forward. Notice a lot of politicians like to use that terminology. Moving forward. Always look at their slogans of what they're saying on their political signs. Not to get too political, always look at what they're telling you without telling you. Moving forward, save this, save that for the future.
we are not going back.
We are not going back.
Except we are. Every time.
Except
That's the farthest I'm going with that. I'm not going to say it.
except what it really is civilizations have risen and fallen and ours will rise and fall.
There you go.
We build ourselves up to a plateau. Every civilization's done it, but I think we're in a cycle.
Personally, I think
cycle.
we got about 8,000 years left.
I'm good
That's
now.
a nice arbitrary
Yep.
number.
That's right.
Yep.
He just you know he just
I
just
actually
like-
have signs for it because they say that the last ice age was about 12,000 years ago, and the cycle repeats every 20,000 years, from what I've heard.
The Reapers, Shepherd.
the Reapers.
They're returning.
This is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. What this is. And look at Steven being smart with his glasses and his hat.
Yeah.
It's like he's trying to hide from a government agency, but he's not. He's
So
doing a
you
very
can't
poor
see
job
what the
of
hat
it.
says. Idjit.
It's your supernatural hat.
Yes.
We know.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. And
Yep.
that's a good point. Actually, that's a very valid point to bring up because that's what it means. It means ignoring the past and moving forward so that the past can repeat itself. See, that's the thing is the past seems to repeat itself in certain things. Not everything, but in certain things, in certain ways. But yeah, we are a funny human race. You know, we try when we're by ourselves, we're highly intelligent. When we get together in a mob mentality, we're stupid.
That is a very good way of describing psychology versus sociology, because I was always very good with psychology, but I never understood sociology.
Sociology and psychology almost remind me of macro and microeconomics.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Microeconomics being, psychology, the study of person, and the sociological aspect being macroeconomics,
Multiple
looking at it as a
people.
whole.
Because I
Looking
always
as a
thought it was
whole.
so strange that I was able to understand an individual, but not when they get together. Like a group of individuals, shouldn't they still act like individuals?
Yes, of course.
Logically, but no, they don't.
And that's the thing. I think Lighthouse, sometimes forgiveness is not accepted, and we have to accept that. You know, it's like, I always tell people, if you're going to ask for something, always be prepared to be told no. Always. You'll never be disappointed, because if you're ready to be told no, you can't
You
be like,
already
oh man,
expect it.
you already
Ooh,
expect
I
it.
love it. I word it a little bit differently, but I actually do have a very similar philosophy. People always say I'm being negative or cynical, and I'm like, no, I'm being realistic, and I think it's a good thing to be negative to a point, because if you always expect the worst thing to happen, then when it does happen, you're already prepared for it, so it only hurts half as bad, and if something good happens, then it's twice as good because you weren't expecting it.
You can't out negative the negative aspect, the negative aspect of the man next to me. He is the king of the negatives.
Because negative doesn't mean bad. It's just a polar opposite. That's
Yeah.
It is. And I'm the more positive one. So positive, negative. But you have to have that for a battery. You have to have that for energy. You have to have a positive and a negative aspect.
So the one in between. What's the one in between? Because that's Steven there. He's just there.
I'm the interrupter.
He
I'm
just
the third
makes
wheel.
sure it's not the molecule isn't too heavy.
Steven's the battery you throw away when
Yep.
it dies.
I'm the old battery.
He's the old battery.
Yep.
It's only possible to control yourself. Yeah, that's it. You can only react to you. That's it. And if you let people live in your head rent free, then
You are
you're
giving
going
them
to
power.
yeah, you're always going to
There's
give
a lot of
power.
that going on right now.
Here we go again. Stop.
There's a lot of that
Stop
going on
it.
right now.
You stop it right now.
I'm not gonna
Stop
name
right
any
now,
names for
sir.
people.
Stop right now. Save that for your own show about whatever you talk about.
Nonsense. Lots of nonsense.
Lots of it. Well, everyone, this has been a show on ancient civilizations, one that always seems to go quite well because I enjoy talking about ancient civilizations. I enjoy talking about our past because I think our past is the one thing that is always important. Oh, please know whatever you believe, you are valued and loved. Thank you. Lighthouse being he is, so here we are. So we have, he is the most positive, then me, then Deadpool, and then all the way over here, you've got Spider.
I'm gonna start competing with Spider though.
Aw.
Yeah, we gonna start having competitions.
Listen, do that away from me because I don't need all that.
Let's do another one of these shows next week, actually, because I'm
Yes.
sure we've all got more. And I actually had queued up stuff about the sea peoples that I mentioned in the previous episode.
Yes.
So we
Good
could
stuff.
elaborate on that, and we can get into that next week.
And
Well, that's
maybe next
Thanksgiving.
week.
Oh,
Next-
that's right. So
or
probably
next
the week
episode?
After, then.
The week
Yeah,
after.
Yeah, then
I was hoping maybe you could tell us some stuff about those ancient civilizations and their secret cults or whatever.
Oh, societies.
Yeah,
Yes.
secret
yeah, we can
societies.
get into.
Yeah, I could do
Yeah,
that.
I thought
we'll
that could work
continue
well with
along
ancient
the line.
civilizations.
Yeah, because I'll pull up my presentation I did. You listen fine, Lighthouse. You don't gotta apologize.
You were
We
here
don't
the whole
come to you.
time.
We're not gonna come to your house and be like, why didn't you listen more to the show?
And like, look back at the comments.
It's on demand for a reason. You can
you
always
were-
go
you
to
were
the
here the
YouTube and
whole
watch it
time.
again.
He was literally here the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
if you ever listen, if you ever want to come on the show, let us know and we will bring you on the show.
Thank you, James.
Lighthouse is a very intelligent human being. I've had some really great conversations with him back and forth about a lot of it's been about like technology, quantum mechanics, quantum computing, stuff that I'm fascinated with quantum
Ooh, I love
computing.
quantum mechanics.
That is the next step
Spider
for our
introduced me.
technological evolution is
String theory.
quantum
Love
computing.
it.
Oh, I love string theory.
Love it. Live it.
Michio
Schrodinger's
Kaku, his concept, hyperspace, fantastic, good read. I definitely recommend the read. It's a lot to take in, but process it
It will
accordingly.
change your world.
It's not as bad as Chicks and Lou's. What was that show? The show about the aliens and they were coming to destroy the planet in like 400 years. You watch the TV show.
Three-body problem?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not as confusing as Chicks and Lou, his book. He's an engineer that wrote as an engineer.
I was just over here thinking about Chick-fil-A. Because Chicks and Lou, Chick-fil-A. I'm like, wait, what?
This guy, he's never, his mind isn't on the show. It's always on something ridiculous. But yes, it is that time. I want to thank everybody coming out. Mammoth, Apple, James, Lighthouse, Scruffy for the raid. Who else showed up?
Lighthouse, always.
Lighthouse is, you talk to Lighthouse, you're gonna learn something. Hold on. I'm trying to think of the people. Oh, OCIR. Thank you to Deadpool for showing up. Not a big fan of that guy. But, thanks for showing up.
He's a
Raspy
troll.
for showing up. Yeah, he's 100% a troll. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed today. It was a very good show. I liked it. I liked the conversation. I can talk about ancient civilizations all day. There's a lot more to it, and we could spend the next 6 months just talking about one ancient civilization. But next time, which will be, I think that sits us at sometime in Diciembre. I haven't decided yet. We might do a show if you guys are feeling it next week. I'm down for it because I'll be here. I'm not gonna be doing nothing. I might stream a little bit, but if you can't, let us know. Maybe I'll still do it. Me and Steven can do it if you can.
See what happens when I get home, because we're gonna be on a tighter schedule than usual.
Thank you.
But we'll see how it goes.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Hope you guys have a good night. As always, why be boring when you can be uncanny? We will see you amazing folks next time. Peace.